Why did it feel like he wasn't just waiting for an employee to give birth? Hours passed. Finally, the doctor came out. "Sir, it was a successful delivery, a healthy baby boy." Alexander sighed deeply, as if a huge weight had been lifted. He quickly went to the nursery room and saw a tiny baby sleeping peacefully inside the incubator. And that's when he felt something unexpected, a connection. "I don't know why," he whispered, "but I feel something special for this baby." A few days later, Jana was cleared to go home. According to their earlier agreement, she was supposed to leave the mansion after giving birth. But as she was packing her things, Alexander appeared. "What are you doing?" "Just packing my things. I'll be leaving soon." Alexander's expression changed. "Why are you leaving?" "Well, that was our agreement, wasn't it?" she replied, confused by his tone. Alexander looked at her, then slowly shook his head. "That's not our agreement anymore." Jana stared at him, puzzled. "Stay for now, at least until you recover." She blinked. "Why?" Alexander took a deep breath and looked at her. "Because I don't want you to leave yet." At that moment, Jana's heart began to beat faster. Months passed, and Jana's son grew quickly from a small, fragile newborn into a healthy and cheerful child adored by everyone in the mansion. She and Alexander often talked about the baby, especially at night while watching him sleep in his crib. Jana often thought her child was lucky. Even without a father, he was growing up surrounded by love. But what Alexander didn't know was that the story of the baby's father wasn't exactly what Jana had told everyone. One night, Jana sat on the mansion's veranda, cradling her baby. Quietly, Alexander joined her, carrying 2 cups of hot tea. "Just the two of us again," he teased, handing her one. Jana smiled and accepted the drink. "Thanks, boss." Alexander sat beside her. They both looked at the sleeping baby in his crib. "You know," Alexander suddenly said, "I don't know why, but I feel a special connection with this baby." Jana paused. "Why do you say that?" He sighed. "I don't know. I just want to take care of him." Jana smiled, but her chest felt heavy. "Maybe because you haven't really met his real father," she joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Speaking of," Alexander said, suddenly serious, "why haven't you looked for him? Shouldn't he be here for both of you?" Jana froze, pretending to fix the baby's blanket. "He's busy. We broke up, but he's still abroad. Couldn't come back because of paperwork." Alexander nodded. "So that's why you're on your own. I hope he returns soon. Raising a child isn't easy alone." Jana lowered her head. She couldn't bring herself to say the truth. 2 years earlier, she was just an ordinary catering staff at large events. She'd get invited to serve at high-profile parties because of her excellent work ethic. One night, she was assigned to a grand masquerade ball in a luxurious hotel. The guests were elite members of society, business moguls, political families, and celebrities. Wearing her simple catering uniform, Jana stood quietly at the side of the ballroom, observing the extravagant celebration. The decorations were stunning, chandeliers sparkling from above, long curtains made of expensive fabrics, and a dance floor filled with elegantly dressed guests wearing masks. It felt like a fairy tale. But before she could return to her duties, something unexpected happened. A drunk man blocked her path. "Hey, miss, you're too pretty to be carrying trays like that," he slurred, grinning. Jana tried to avoid him, but he stepped closer. "Please let me go, sir." "I'm working," she said firmly. Before things could escalate, a tall man in a mask suddenly stepped in and pushed the drunk man away. "Back off." The drunk man backed down and left in a huff. Jana was overwhelmed with gratitude toward the stranger who had helped her. She couldn't see his face because of the mask, but he had a commanding presence, not just an ordinary guest. After the incident, they spoke briefly. "You shouldn't go back inside. There are more drunk guests who might bother you." "But I still have work," Jana replied. "I'll walk you outside. At least you'll be safe." She didn't know why, but she felt comfortable around him. they walked outside the ballroom and talked. He said he was a businessman who was forced to attend the party, even though he didn't like such events. They had drinks at the hotel bar. And in a twist of fate, they both got drunk. That night, they made a mistake. The next morning, Jana woke up in a hotel room. The man was lying next to her, face down, and she couldn't see his face. Her hands trembled as she quietly got out of bed. She couldn't face him. She couldn't accept what had happened. In shock and shame, she left without looking back. She never saw him again. Weeks passed, and she started noticing changes in her body. She was pregnant. She had no idea who the father was. She didn't even know the man's name. Out of embarrassment, she told everyone that her boyfriend had left her, that the baby's father was abroad and never returned. Now, sitting on the mansion's veranda with Alexander, she couldn't help but remember everything. Alexander didn't know the truth, and she chose to keep lying, afraid it would change how he saw her. "Boss," she suddenly asked, "why are you helping me like this?" Alexander looked at her and smiled. "Because I want to help, and because I want to see him grow up," he said, pointing to her child. Because of his answer, Jana couldn't help but smile. Her life had changed so much from being a single mother unsure of how to raise her child to meeting Alexander. And now, even if nothing more would come of it, even if they remained just friends, it was enough for her that he was here. With each passing day, Alexander and Jana's bond grew stronger. From simple conversations at night while putting the baby to sleep to small gestures of care, their feelings for each other deepened. But there was something they couldn't explain. Why did they feel like they already knew each other? One night, while watching a movie in the mansion's white entertainment room, Jana noticed something in Alexander's laugh. It sounded familiar. She slowly turned to look at him. There was something whispering inside her, telling her she had known him long ago. Alexander noticed her staring and smiled. "What's with that look? Do I have something on my face?" Jana blinked. "No, nothing. I just remembered something." But she couldn't explain what. Another time, while they were sorting through old items in the mansion attic, a mask fell from a box. Alexander picked it up and examined it. "A masquerade mask," he said, holding it curiously. Suddenly, a memory flashed in Jana's mind. An extravagant party, a man in a mask, and a night she could never forget. She swallowed hard. Could he be the man from that night? Pause, you won't believe what happens next on Dark Voices, so stay with us as this mystery unravels. As they continued building their peaceful and joyful life in the mansion, an unexpected event shook everything. Alexander's parents suddenly returned from China without warning or prior notice. One afternoon, while Jana was in the living room with her child, a series of car horns echoed from outside. She peeked through the window and saw a convoy of luxury vehicles entering the estate. Moments later, the mansion doors opened, and an older man in a business suit and a graceful woman in elegant attire entered. They were Alexander's parents. "Alexander, my son," his mother exclaimed warmly. But there was clear surprise in her eyes when she saw Jana and the child inside the mansion. Alexander approached quickly. "Mom, Dad, why are you suddenly here?" His father looked at Jana, who was holding the child. "And who are they?" Alexander took a deep breath, then gently held Jana's hand. "Mom, Dad, this is my girlfriend, Jana, and this is her son, whom I consider my own." Jana saw Alexander's mother raise an eyebrow, though she quickly masked her reaction with a polite smile. "Girlfriend," she repeated, her gaze scanning Jana from head to toe. "Yes," Alexander confirmed. "And I want you to know they're very important to me." Though his mother didn't voice any objections, Jana could feel the hesitation behind her smile. Meanwhile, Alexander's father remained quiet, merely observing. Still, Jana couldn't help but feel giddy. She hadn't expected Alexander to call her his girlfriend in front of his parents. But despite the joy, unease settled in her chest like a storm looming on the horizon. A few days later, Jana received an unexpected phone call. It was from Alexander's mother. "Jana, I'd like to invite you to lunch at a Chinese restaurant tomorrow. I'd like to get to know you better." Since his mother hadn't directly opposed their relationship, Jana thought this could be the chance to be fully accepted as part of the family. At first, their conversation went well. Alexander's mother spoke warmly, asking about motherhood, how she raised the child, and how Alexander had grown close to them. But as their discussion deepened, the tone slowly changed. "You know, Jana," the older woman said, gently setting down her teacup. "I can see you're a good woman, and I don't mean to insult your relationship with Alexander, but there's something I have to say." Jana paused. "What is it?" The woman took a deep breath. "We've already chosen someone for Alexander to marry." It felt as if Jana's world suddenly stopped. "Excuse me," she asked, her voice barely audible. "You understand he's part of a royal Chinese family, don't you?" the woman continued, calm but firm. "He has a duty to marry a woman of Chinese blood, not someone like you, with a child and from a different background." Jana's chest tightened. "But isn't love what matters more?" The woman met her eyes. "If you truly love my son, let him go." Tears welled up in Jana's eyes. "I don't understand. He's with you out of debt. You saved his life. That's why he's here, supporting you and your child. But you and he are not meant to be together." Then the woman slid an envelope across the table. "There's a large sum inside. It should be enough to help you start over. Please leave my son." Jana stared at the envelope in disbelief. It felt like a scene from a movie, but this was her reality. Slowly, she pushed the envelope back. "I'm not that kind of woman." The woman gave a cold smile. "You don't have to be that kind to accept reality. You and Alexander are not meant for each other." That night, Jana couldn't sleep. Was Alexander's mother right? Was Alexander only helping her out of a sense of obligation? If he did love her, could that love withstand the destruction it could bring to his life? She glanced at her sleeping child. Could she fight for their love, even if it meant breaking Alexander apart from his family and duty? A single question haunted her. What should I do? That night was painful for Jana. As she lulled her child to sleep, she looked around the room they shared inside Alexander's grand mansion. She had grown to love this place, the warmth, the silence, the sense of home. But most of all, she had grown to love the presence of Alexander. Still, she knew this couldn't last. As her baby slept peacefully, Jana sat down at the table and took a deep breath. She picked up a pen and began to write the hardest letter she had ever written. "Alexander, I know this will surprise you, but this is the only way I can protect you and myself. Please don't look for me. I won't be coming back. I received a job offer, an opportunity that's best for me and my child. I have to accept it. And one more thing I need to confess. I've gotten back together with the baby's father, my ex. We've decided to start over and build a family. So, there's no more reason for me to stay here. Alexander, I want you to know you're one of the best things that ever happened to me. I'll never forget the memories we made, the late-night talks, the way you cared for my child, and how you valued us. But I know this isn't right. I'm not the woman for you. I don't belong in your world. Thank you for everything. Goodbye." With every word, Jana couldn't stop her tears. But she knew this was the right thing to do. It was early morning. Alexander had no idea it would be the last time he woke up in the same house as Jana. Carrying a small suitcase and her sleeping baby in her arms, Jana stepped out quietly. She didn't want anyone to wake up. She didn't want to be seen. For the last time, she looked around the mansion, a place that had brought her happiness she never thought she'd feel again. Then she placed the letter on Alexander's desk and left. The next day, Alexander woke up feeling lighter than usual until he noticed the stillness of the house. Usually, he'd hear the baby's laughter or Jana's soft footsteps in the kitchen. But today, it was silent. He went downstairs and saw the letter on his desk. He opened it and began to read. As he got deeper into the letter, it felt like something was strangling his chest. Each word pierced him like a blade. She had gone back to her ex. She wasn't coming back. She had a new life. Alexander dropped to his knees, clutching the letter, his tears falling freely. He couldn't believe it. He thought Jana felt the same. He thought they had something real. His parents walked into the room and saw the anguish on his face. "What now?" his mother asked. Alexander didn't answer. His father took the letter and read it quickly. A bitter smile formed on his lips. "I knew it. That's just how Filipinos are. They take what they want, protection, help, and then they leave." His mother shook her head. "You were never meant to be with someone outside our heritage. That wasn't for you. That wasn't for our family." But no matter what they said, Alexander knew it wasn't true. He knew Jana. He knew what they had was real. But what could he do if she had already left? Because of the pain of losing Jana, Alexander felt like everything had lost its meaning. There was no reason left to fight, no reason left to resist. So when his parents reminded him of his arranged marriage to a woman from the Yu family, he didn't fight it. He didn't ask questions. He didn't resist. Without Jana, what was the point? The dreaded day finally came for Alexander. He stood in the middle of a grand ballroom, wearing a perfectly tailored suit, about to be engaged in a marriage he had never wanted. In front of him stood his soon-to-be fiancée, a woman he barely knew, but had been chosen for him by his family. All around, the guests were clapping and celebrating the union of two powerful business empires, the Chen and Yu families. "For the Chen and Yu family and for their successful empires," shouted the host, while the crowd applauded and cheered. But amidst all the joy and festivity, Alexander's heart was walking in the opposite direction. Tightly gripping his wineglass, he looked around the hall, searching for something familiar. But there was nothing. No one was there who was supposed to be by his side. And as everyone else rejoiced, Alexander's world felt like it was falling apart. He was thinking only one thing. "I already met the woman I love, but I can't be with her. And now I have to marry someone I don't even care for." He looked around once more, hoping, praying for anything. But all he saw were strangers. As he stood there frozen, his mother called out. "Alexander, what are you doing?" she asked sharply. His father stepped closer. "Son," he said. The wedding coordinator prompted, puzzled, "Sir?" But Alexander didn't respond to any of them. Without hesitation, he turned away from the altar and walked out fast, determined, unwavering. "Alexander," his mother screamed. "What are you doing? What's going on?" his father demanded. "Sir," the wedding coordinator called again, confused. But Alexander didn't turn back. He didn't explain. As the entire wedding party stood in shock, Alexander walked out of the cathedral, ignoring the desperate calls behind him. And before disappearing from view, he said only one thing. "I am really sorry." He drove faster than he ever had before. He couldn't remember exactly how he got to the hospital. All he knew was that he had to get there. Inside the hospital, Jana sat alone, unaware of the chaos coming her way. She still couldn't accept her child's condition. "Dear God, what am I supposed to do?" she whispered, exhausted and drained. Suddenly, someone burst through the door. She looked up and gasped. It was Alexander, still in his suit, still breathless, as if he had just run a marathon. He looked at Jana with eyes full of emotion. And in that single moment, Jana understood what he had done. "I'm here," Alexander whispered. He glanced at the baby sleeping in the hospital bed. Then he walked over to Jana, wiped away her tears, and said in a trembling voice, "I'm not leaving again." The entire country woke up to massive headlines. The wedding that was supposed to unite two of the most powerful Filipino-Chinese business empires had been called off. Every newspaper, TV network, and social media platform exploded with the same shocking update. Billionaire CEO flees own wedding. Chen family heir leaves bride at the altar for a Filipina and her child. The great wedding scandal. Alexander Chen walks out on arranged marriage. But Alexander didn't care. Amid all the noise, rumors, and his family's outrage, only one thing mattered to him: Jana and her child's condition. Inside the hospital room, Alexander sat silently beside the child's bed. He hadn't left his spot, not for a second. Night had fallen, but he remained by their side. Jana sat quietly next to him, her eyes fixed on her child, connected to 4 lines and monitors. The fear and exhaustion on her face were unmistakable. She had never imagined this day would come, or her greatest fear would become the biggest battle of her life. She glanced at Alexander, who hadn't moved. "Fix your life, Alexander," she said gently. "I know your family must be furious." But Alexander didn't look at her. His gaze remained on the child, deep in thought. "I don't care," he finally said. "I can't leave you." The next day, the test results finally came. The doctor approached them with the medical report in hand, his expression serious. "Are you ready to hear the results?" he asked. Jana could barely breathe. Alexander tightened his grip on her hand. "Doctor, what's wrong with our baby?" Jana asked, her voice shaking. The doctor turned to Alexander. "Sir Alexander, you might find this condition familiar." Alexander frowned. "What do you mean?" The doctor sighed deeply before continuing. "Your child has a rare congenital heart disease. So far, there have only been 3 recorded cases in the country, and your child is the 4th. Silence fell over the room. Alexander's chest tightened. "Congenital heart disease," he whispered. The doctor nodded. "Yes. 3 recorded cases so far. 2 were female, and the 3rd," he paused, then looked at Alexander. "Was you, Mr. Chen." It hit Alexander like a punch to the gut. The same disease, the exact same condition. "Why is it the same?" he asked, stunned. The doctor continued. "There's a genetic link in your family, and both your mother and grandmother had this condition before it was passed on to you. According to our findings, this disease doesn't occur randomly. It's only passed down through blood." He paused again. "And based on all the evidence, the only possible way for this child to have the condition is if you're the father." Alexander felt the world crumble around him. His knees went weak. It meant this child was his. He couldn't speak. Jana was equally stunned, her face pale. "No, that can't be," she murmured, shaking her head. But Alexander wasn't in denial. "I want confirmation," he said quietly. "I want a DNA test." Jana hesitated, but she knew she had no choice. They had to know the truth. 3 days passed, 3 long days filled with anxiety and fear about what the results would reveal. During that time, Alexander never left the child's side. He was more attentive, more protective, and more emotional than ever before. Then, finally, the results arrived. In a hospital conference room, Jana and Alexander sat across from the doctor. The doctor opened the envelope and read the report. He looked up and said clearly, "Based on the DNA test results, the biological father of the child is Mr. Alexander Chen." The room fell silent. Jana felt like the world had stopped spinning. She turned to Alexander, who remained frozen in place. "Alexander," she whispered. He didn't respond. He simply looked up, letting the tears fall freely from his eyes. That child, the one he'd run from the altar for, the one he couldn't abandon, he was his son. They returned to the hospital room in silence. Jana sat beside her child, her heart overwhelmed by a flood of emotions. She didn't know what to feel: shock, fear, joy. She looked at Alexander, who now stood beside the baby's crib. Tears still welled in his eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. He was crying from love. Alexander gently stroked the baby's tiny hand. "You're my son," he whispered, almost in disbelief. "All this time, I've been searching for you." He wrapped his arms around the child, holding him tightly, not caring who might see. In that moment, Alexander knew. He would never hesitate again. He would never hide again. He would no longer live under his family's expectations. Because, finally, he knew who truly mattered. But the emotional whirlwind wasn't over. Jana looked at him with trembling lips. "Alexander." He glanced back at her, still full of emotion. "There's something you need to know," she said. "Your parents, they're here in the hospital's VIP lounge." Inside that VIP lounge, Alexander sat quietly across from his parents. Jana stayed near the corner, gripping her hands under the table to keep them from shaking. Her heart was pounding. She didn't know how to face the Chen family again, especially after being rejected before. But instead of anger, she saw something she never expected. Tears. Tears streamed down Madame Alice Chen's face. "We already know the truth, Alexander," she said through her sobs. Alexander didn't respond. He wasn't sure how to take the sudden shift in his mother's tone, the same mother who had forced him into an engagement, the same mother who had humiliated Jana. "We had you investigated," she continued. Mr. Chen nodded solemnly. "And we learned everything about Jana and the baby." Madame Alice turned to Jana, her eyes full of remorse. "Forgive me, dear." Jana gasped. She never imagined hearing that from Alexander's mother. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice shaky. Alice took a deep breath. "I harbored so much resentment toward you. I assumed you were just another woman trying to take advantage of Alexander's wealth. I thought you had no real intentions." She paused, wiping her tears. "But when I found out the truth, when I learned that the baby is my grandson, everything changed. I realized I was wrong." Alexander sat stunned. "Mom," he whispered. Alice looked at her son, guilt written all over her face. "Forgive me too, Alexander. I thought I was doing the right thing when I forced you into that engagement. I believed it was best for our family." She wrapped her arms around herself, trembling. "But now that I know the baby is my blood, God, how could I have treated you both that way?" Alexander watched as his mother completely broke down. "I'm so sorry, son." He was speechless. He had never seen her like this before. Then Alice looked at Jana once more, her voice softer. "Where's the baby?" she asked. "I want to see him." Alexander didn't waste another moment. He brought his parents into the hospital room. As soon as they entered, Alice went straight to the crib and looked down at the sleeping child. Her hardened exterior dissolved. No longer the intimidating businesswoman, just a grandmother, awed by the little angel before her, she gently caressed the baby's forehead as tears fell from her eyes. "My grandchild," she whispered. Jana stood frozen. The woman who had once scorned her now touched her child with love. Alice turned back to her, holding her hand. "Forgive everything I said to you before. Please." Jana could barely speak, her tears now flowing freely. But Alice wasn't done. "Now that I know the truth, your child will have everything he needs. My husband and I will use all our wealth and connections to make sure he gets the best treatment in the world." And the Chen family did just that. Within 5 days, they brought in world-renowned medical specialists. Experts from different countries were flown in. No stone was left unturned. Every modern treatment available was explored and applied. For the first time, Jana felt a heavy weight lifted from her shoulders. She wasn't alone in this battle anymore. She no longer had to fear how she would fight for her child's life. Now they had a family, too. As Alexander stood by her side, watching her cradle their son, he made a silent vow to himself. "I won't leave you again." He walked up to Jana and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "Nothing will ever separate us again." Jana looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. Alexander smiled, a smile full of certainty. "I love you, and I will never let you go again." And in front of their son and the entire family, a new beginning was born. Time passed quickly. In just a few months, Jana went through the most difficult battle of her life as a mother, facing her child's illness. But with the help of the Chen family, world-class doctors, and above all, love and faith, they finally received the news they had long been praying for. The baby is fully recovered. Jana couldn't stop her tears from falling. She looked at the doctor again and again, as if waiting to hear that she had misheard. "Doctor, is it true?" The doctor smiled. "Yes, ma'am. Based on the results of the most recent tests, there's nothing to worry about. Your child's condition is now normal. Jana held her mouth in shock. She couldn't believe it. She didn't even notice that she had already dropped to her knees, weeping quietly. Beside her, Alexander embraced her tightly. "Did you hear that? Our son is healed," he whispered. She hugged him back so tightly, as if afraid to let go. For the first time after all the trials, they could finally breathe freely. 1 week after the baby was discharged from the hospital, a new challenge came through a call from Alice Chen. "You'll need to face the media, son." In the past months, they had made headlines, from the scandal of Alexander walking out of his wedding to the discovery of his real child. Now the press wanted answers. "Are you ready?" Alice asked Alexander as they sat in a private room inside a 5-star hotel where the press conference was to be held. Alexander held Jana's hand tightly. She was clearly nervous. "We'll face this together," he whispered. "We don't need to hide anymore." Jana nodded, though fear was still evident in her eyes. Hand in hand, they walked into the large conference hall where dozens of reporters, cameras, and microphones awaited them. The flashes started. "Mr. Chen, is it true you left your bride for this woman? Miss Jana, how did you manage to win the heart of a business tycoon? Mr. Chen, are you certain this woman is the mother of your child?" Jana could barely breathe from the barrage of questions, but Alexander never let go of her hand. Instead, he turned to the crowd, calm, composed, and resolute. "That's enough." Instant silence fell over the room. Alexander scanned the crowd with a firm expression. "Let's stop the speculations. I'm here to correct the lies." He took a deep breath and continued. "The woman beside me is not a gold digger. She didn't come into my life to take advantage of me. In fact, I was the one who couldn't remember her." The reporters stirred. "I didn't know that 2 years ago I had already met her. I didn't know she was the woman I spent a night with at a masquerade party. I didn't know she was the one who changed my life forever. I didn't know she was the mother of my child, a child I nearly never knew, all because of the fear caused by my own family." Murmurs rippled through the room. Alexander reached for Jana's hand again and pulled her gently toward him. "She is Jana, the mother of my son and the woman I love." Jana felt her world spin. She never thought Alexander would say such words in front of the entire world. She wiped her tears quickly, but they continued falling when she saw Alexander slowly kneel in front of her. Gasps echoed from the crowd. "What are you doing?" she whispered, trembling. Alexander didn't respond with words. He simply opened a small velvet box. Inside was a beautiful ring. "Jana," he said softly but firmly, "I want to be with you forever. Not just as the father of your child, but as your husband. Will you marry me?" Jana broke into sobs. After all they'd been through, she had grown to love this man deeply. And now, after every trial, he was offering her forever. She nodded through her tears. "Yes, Alexander. Yes." Soon after, the most elegant wedding of the year took place. But this wasn't just a union of two people. It was a merging of two entirely different worlds, a former Grab driver and a billionaire CEO. But in the end, it didn't matter how much money they had, how lavish the wedding was, or how many influential people attended. What mattered was that their love was true. At the altar, Alexander held Jana's hands tightly. "I love you." Jana smiled, radiant with joy. "And I love you." And in front of their family, friends, and the entire world, the chapter of trials and sorrow closed, and a new chapter of lasting love began. A year after Jana and Alexander got married, their lives changed completely. Not because of wealth or power, but because of the love that built their family. Jana's once simple life had transformed into a world she had once thought impossible. But despite the grand mansion, designer clothes, and luxurious lifestyle, she remained the same woman, willing to do anything for her child. In the wide garden of their estate, a cheerful little boy ran around happily while his mother chased after him. "Aiden, slow down. You might trip," Jana shouted, laughing. The boy, now 3 years old, had narrow eyes and a pointed nose, features clearly inherited from his father. He giggled while playing with their dog, Machi, a golden retriever gifted by his grandparents from China. Not far away, Alexander stood smiling as he watched them. He sighed, thinking about how much his life had changed since he met Jana. From being a stern businessman focused solely on his career, he had become a devoted husband and father. And for the first time in his life, he felt whole. He walked over to Jana, carrying a small box in his hand. "This is for you." Jana was surprised but accepted it. "What is it?" "Open it." Inside the box was a simple bracelet engraved with their three names, Alexander, Jana, and Aiden. Jana smiled and couldn't hold back her tears. "It's beautiful. I love it." Alexander gently held her face. "I just want to remind you that no matter what happens, we are a family. Me, you, and Aiden. You're my life." He leaned closer. "Promise me something. Promise me you'll never leave my side." Jana nodded. "I promise, my love." He pulled her into a tight embrace. Just then, Aiden ran toward them. "Mommy! Daddy, look! I found a butterfly." They looked at the small, delicate butterfly that had landed on Aiden's shoulder. For Jana, it felt like a symbol of new beginnings, a reminder that despite everything they had gone through, they had found true happiness in the end. That night, Alexander prepared a simple celebration for their first wedding anniversary. A romantic dinner was set in the garden of their mansion, with soft lights twinkling and a cool, peaceful breeze in the air. Sitting side by side, they watched Aiden eat his favorite chocolate cake. "It's delicious, Mommy," the boy squealed, his mouth covered in chocolate. Jana and Alexander laughed. "Take it slow, little panda," Alexander teased. Jana turned to her husband, her smile full of wonder. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is our life now." Alexander took her hand. "You know, I don't wish for anything else. I've already found everything I want." "You and Aiden, I love you so much, Jana." "I love you, too, Alexander." And under the stars, they shared a sweet kiss, a seal on their promise that no matter what, they would remain together as a family. Once she had been just a driver struggling to survive, and he, a CEO who thought only power and success could bring him happiness. But fate brought their worlds together. And in front of them now was a future filled with love, joy, and hope. This was their true happily ever after. The end. Pause. I personally enjoyed this story. Did you enjoy it, too? If yes, drop me a comment below, and I'll be happy to read it. Until we meet again, this is your friend Mr. Hope from Dark Voices. Stay safe.